On this edition of Independent Sources, high-quality help for immigrants, a new organization trains lawyers for pro bono work.
Our hope is to be able to reach some of those people and really transform their lives from living in the shadows to being able to get work, get an education, and be able to really access all the benefits of the city.
And newspaper war. Chinese papers in the city are still battling for readership.
We compete with the World Journal, with Xinda, with Ming Pao, equally and respectfully.
Those stories and more coming up on Independent Sources. Welcome to Independent Sources, bringing you news from New York's ethnic and immigrant communities. I'm Garry Pierre Pierre. The Immigrant Justice Corps is looking for a few good men and women. The recently founded organization is enrolling new law school graduates into a pilot program to provide high-quality legal assistance to immigrants. The Corps will initially recruit 25 candidates to work with community-based organizations throughout the city. Zafis Lebrun spoke with the Corps' executive director, Nisha Agarwal, about why the organization is so necessary.
So Nisha, thank you very much for being with us in studio today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. All right, so let's just start with, what is this Immigration Justice Corps? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So the Immigrant Justice Corps is very newly launched. We're about 3 weeks old. And at base, we're a fellowship program for newly minted lawyers and college students to provide immigration legal services in New York City. When we're fully up and running, will be the largest expansion of immigration legal services in the city's history.
Okay, so, why is this corps necessary? Why is this?
So the need for high-quality immigration legal services is huge. There's a judge, the chief judge of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, Robert Katzman, helped to spearhead a study to look at the gap in representation for immigrants in New York City and around the country, and found that when immigrants have a lawyer, their chances of being able to defend their deportations, be able to prosecute their cases is significantly improved than if you don't have a lawyer. And the vast majority of immigrants in the city right now are unable to afford to or able to access a high-quality lawyer. So the goal of the Immigrant Justice Corps is to start meeting that need and bridging the gap.
Now, you mentioned Judge Katzman. Could you tell the audience a little bit more about his role?
Sure. So Judge Katzman, he's the chief judge of one of the most important courts in the country. It's the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, so it's right below the Supreme Court. And since 9/11, his court and appeals courts across the country have seen a huge increase in the number of immigration cases that are coming before them. And so sitting on the bench, he saw time after time after time how immigrants would come before his court without counsel, facing language barriers, facing a number of other barriers, and unable to represent themselves effectively because immigration law is really complex, it's really difficult. And so he started thinking, I wonder if the outcome would be different if we had, if people had access to lawyers. So that was the impetus behind creating the study group that he formed and then studying really the gap in representation that immigrants face.
So now, with all of that, let's talk a little bit about the corps itself. How is it going to break down with these lawyers, these graduates that you're mentioning?
So what we're doing, and we're actually in the process of doing this right now, is we're recruiting the top law students from around the country. They apply for a competitive fellowship. We have a selection committee that will decide, we'll choose 25 fellows for this year, and then thereafter 25 legal fellows. We're also going to do the same thing with college students around the country and select 15 college students to serve essentially as paralegals in community-based organizations around the city. So every year we'll have 40 fellows, and those fellows will be hosted in community-based organizations and legal services offices around the city. So we're really adding capacity to the network that already exists, and they'll receive training, they'll receive support for 2 to 3 years, and then they'll be fully trained immigration practitioners for the field.
One of the things that I'm curious about is that you mentioned the fact there's kind of like a vetting process and so forth. And how are you guys, essentially going to stream out the best of the best, if you will?
It is is going to be challenging because applications are already coming in and they are extremely high quality. I mean, these are people who are from immigrant backgrounds themselves, often who speak different languages but are deeply committed to immigrant rights and to public service. So our goal is really to find the top 25 compelling applicants who want to be in this field for the long haul and be able to support them getting a start in their careers.
Right. So it's not necessarily, hey, listen, we're in it for the money, but we're in it because we're dedicated to the cause.
Exactly. Absolutely.
I see. Okay. Now, will these, will these lawyers be paid for their services?
They will be. So the Immigrant Justice Corps will contribute up to $47,000 towards their salary, and on top of that, benefits and loan repayment assistance as well if they need that. Now, the host organizations where the fellows will be located can choose to supplement that salary, but that'll be our contribution. So our hope is to make a major contribution towards the fellows' salaries and benefits so that it makes it possible for nonprofits to hire them.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's the Robin Hood Foundation's role in all of this?
So the Robin Hood Foundation has really sort of been the catalyst behind the Immigrant Justice Corps. The judge was the brains behind the operation, and then he met up with folks at the Robin Hood Foundation, and they've really helped incubate this idea. So the first step that they took was hiring a consultant, which was me, to design the Corps. And since that time, they've provided a substantial seed grant to get the Immigrant Justice Corps off the ground and are supporting us in many other ways. My office currently is at the foundation, and they're kind of supporting us even just in our startup efforts to be an entity.
You mentioned that these organizations are around the city. Is the idea to focus on New York City first and then spread out around the country, or is this going to simply be based in New York?
So we're going to focus in New York City. We're sort of thinking if we can do it in New York, then we'll have a very good pilot to expand to the rest of the country. And we've already had interest from groups in California and Chicago and Boston to expand this in their cities as well. So I'm hopeful we'll be able to do that soon.
So what sort of incubation period are you talking about for New York? Are you expecting like a year, 2 years? What do you think?
We are expecting to scale up over the course of 3 years, and by year 3 we'll have about 100 fellows in the field serving 15,000 clients a year. So that's sort of maximum capacity in New York, and then at that point hopefully we'll start to branch out to other places as well.
Now, I know initially you had talked about the funding of about $4 million to kind of get everything off the ground, but you're talking about 100 fellows. It's going to take a lot of investment.
Yes.
Who are you guys reaching out to as regards to kind of finding funding for this?
So, we're reaching out to private foundations and to individual donors. There is a lot of passion for this issue right now in the field with immigration reform making national headlines. So we're reaching out to, donors who are interested in supporting that work and building the field. And, we'll explore as we expand other opportunities. Maybe there are other strategies for revenue generation that we can explore as well. But that's always the trickiest part.
Right. Now, I want to go back to something you said at the beginning, this whole idea of the need for this, that the fact that there's not sufficient representation for immigrants. How rampant is that?
Yeah, so to give you a sense, in the study that Judge Katzman led, about 60% of immigrants coming through his court system and through the court system do not have access to counsel. And one striking fact is that detained immigrants who are able to access counsel and who are facing deportation succeed in their cases 3 times out of 4. If you don't have access to counsel, you're successful 3% of the time. So that's virtually never, and clearly a lawyer makes a difference in those contexts. And we're talking about when people are deported, permanently exiled from their families, parents being, sent away from their kids, breadwinners being lost. So the impacts on society are huge, not to mention the individual.
Right. Now, you've spoken about deportation specifically. Will the court focus mainly on deportation cases, or will they deal with, probably change in status cases and so forth?
The full range. So we're going to represent clients who want to become citizens and already have their green cards, all the way to people who are facing deportation. And the impact of being able, there are a substantial number of individuals in the city who are currently undocumented but may actually have a path to legal status available to them, but they have never had access to good legal advice. And so our hope is to be able to reach some of those people and really transform their lives from living in the shadows to being able to get work, get an education, be able to really access all the benefits of the city.
And these folks will be working pro bono?
And they will be working pro bono. So it's, free legal services. We're going to be tapping into New York City's rich infrastructure of nonprofit legal services providers who typically do not charge fees or very high fees at all for their services.
Well, that's an amazing program. Nisha, thank you so much. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Just a small program note. Since doing this interview with us, Nisha Agarwal has been appointed Commissioner of the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. When we come back, bringing Olympian-sized dreams to Harlem. Before that, Abi Ishola has some other news.
Thanks, Gary. Here's a look at some headlines from New York's ethnic media. Many immigrants are avoiding deportation with the help of a pilot program launched by various community organizations. El Diario La Prensa reports that these groups have joined together to form the New York Immigrant Family Unity Project, or NYIFUP. The collective launched the program to offer legal defense to people facing deportation. So far, the program has represented 101 New Yorkers based on income since it began last November. The group is looking to increase the $500,000 award City Council grants to assist more people in need of legal help to $5.3 million. From the lowdown, a realtor from the Lower East Side is speaking out about the lack of Latino representation in the area. Enrique Cruz, founder and president of the Association of Latino Business Owners and Residents, wants more Latinos involved in Community Board 3. According to the 2010 census, Hispanics make up 24% of the population in the area, yet there are only 4 Latinos on the board of 50 people. Several members of Congress want an ancient Hindu festival to become an official school holiday, News India Times reports. As New York City Schools Chancellor Carmen Farina continues to draft a list of religious occasions to make official school holidays, 6 members of Congress, including Representative Joe Crowley and Charles Rangel, have asked her to consider Diwali. The Hindu occasion, also known as the Festival of Lights, is celebrated during fall. It is a spiritual event that marks the beginning of the Hindu New Year and signifies the victory of light over darkness. Lawmakers say 3 million Indian Americans celebrate Diwali. A Chinese couple in Queens has opened the first STEM learning center for kids in the borough. According to World Journal, careers in STEM, or science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, boast high salaries and a vast pool of jobs, yet only 16% of 12th graders in the U.S. say they're interested in STEM jobs. Da Chen and his wife Lupita quit their jobs to open the STEM Center that focuses on preparing students for tests. The center also inspires children to be curious about science by having them assemble Lego robots or design video games. And finally, from the Riverdale Press, Cubans raised in Cuba will share space with Cuban Americans in a new art exhibit. The show, titled Cuban America, An Empire State of Mind, held at Lehman College Art Gallery in the Bronx, will feature works from Cuban artists from Cuba and from the States. Uniquis Villalonga, curator for the showing, says they wanted to present an exhibit that doesn't dwell on typical themes like Cuban prejudices towards American politics. The event will run from March 17th through May 14th. Those were just a few headlines from New York's ethnic and community media. Independent Sources will be back right after this.
Thanks for staying tuned. Figure skating has been a sport associated with the social elite. The expensive lessons, costumes, and equipment are a big part of that image. But an organization in Harlem has been trying to change that notion in the lives of many young girls since 1997. Figure Skating in Harlem, or FSH, is a nonprofit that uses the discipline of the sport to promote academic excellence and physical fitness. I spoke with FSH founder and executive director Sharon Cohen about the organization's journey. Sharon, in 1997, you had this idea to bring figure skating to young girls in Harlem. What made you think that was important for Harlem?
Well, I didn't bring figure skating to Harlem. Actually, I was invited 5 years before that because there were some girls introduced to ice hockey that wanted to figure skate. And so they asked if I would come up and teach them. And so when I began teaching them, I saw how amazing they were inspiring to me, because as they got better and better, they developed this sense of themselves that was just really inspiring. So they brought figure skating themselves, I just showed up.
And when you showed up, what did you find?
I found young ladies who, when given a blank sheet of ice, a blank canvas, could get out there and discover what they're made of. I saw them work through obstacles, I saw them fall down and get up, and then I saw them get better and better. And it was really wonderful.
I was doing some research on you and the program, and there was a quote that you have. You said, this is about education, and then the figure skating is just a hook. Talk to us about that part of it, because you emphasize education and forming strong young women and adults. Talk to us about some of your success stories outside of figure skating.
Well, the truth is the heart of our program is education. When we established it in 1997, we decided that education had to be the central piece. And skating is what brought the girls through the door and what they love to do. And it's also very healthy. It's great for fitness. And what we've seen through the years is great academic achievement. We have a student currently who's a junior at Brown University. All of our students go to four-year colleges, and they learn to, because skating is different.
How so?
Well, the truth is there was no organized figure skating in Harlem before it developed from the ground up. It was really a grassroots program. So the girls embraced a whole new sport, learned about its history, and they began to make it their own. And so currently we have kids on synchronized skating teams, and they compete all over the East Coast. And it's wonderful to see them gain from skating without necessarily going to the Olympics. They gain the discipline. And that applies to their academics as well. And we hold them to a high standard. They have to keep at least a B+ average in their core subjects to be in the program.
Are they attending public schools, private schools, or is the program part educational and part athletics, or how does it work?
Well, all of our students have to live in Upper Manhattan or Lower Bronx, and we predominantly serve lower income kids because we wanted to provide opportunity that didn't exist for them. And so they go to public schools, parochial schools, a few private schools, a few charter schools, but it's across the board. But they all meet at Figure Skating in Harlem, and they know they have to learn to read well and write well, regardless of what school they go to, and be good at math.
Now, you know, figure skating is seen by many as a sport of the elite and the rich. And these low-income Black and Latinas, are they accepted in their communities? How are they viewed going to this figure skating class?
Yeah. Well, we've had hundreds and hundreds of girls go through our program now. We've been around 17 years. And for our girls, figure skating is their sport. They don't know any different. When I grew up, skating is very elitist. It was predominantly white. It's very expensive. But we found a way to provide the opportunity to learn to skate, and our girls through the years have taken full advantage of that, and I think they own it.
But for the most part, figure skating is still a very
Yes.
white and elite sport, right?
Absolutely. It's really, it comes from a club tradition where they could exclude people, and we took the opposite approach. It was all about including. It was all about opportunity. And so when our girls go to compete nowadays, I think they are warmly embraced by the predominantly white upper middle class other teams that participate.
Are they really, or are they just being polite to them? Oh, that's the little girls from Harlem, you know, and charity cases.
Until we beat them, and then they not so. No, I think there's respect. I think there's mutual respect. Certainly, we would all wish to see many more teams of girls of color participating, and we're breaking ground. I mean, one of our goals is to set up this model program that we have in other communities, in other parts of the country even, so that the whole sport can be diversified.
Have you gotten some really resistance, some pushback from girls or from parents that you've wanted to recruit and they just didn't want to be part of anything like that because of the sort of like, I don't want to say stigma, but the way that the perception of the sport?
Well, I'm proud to say we've always had a waiting list, so it's always been word of mouth. We've never really had to go out and ask students to join. So parents are so excited about their students, and students are excited that they reach out to their peers. Now, what happens in New York is there's a limited amount of ice time. So that means we can only admit a certain number of students. So if there was more ice time available, it would be, the playing field would be a little more equal. And I think a lot more girls would get involved.
Now, what's the process? How does one join? Do they just show up and say, I want to skate, and then you just accept them, or do they have to have certain basic skills already?
No, you don't have to have any skating skills. Anybody, girl can apply who's the age between 6 and 18, and they have to, again, live in Harlem or Upper Manhattan. And they have to be interviewed by us. They have to show that they have a desire to commit and to learn to figure skate. And sometimes we have to make hard choices and we have to put kids on the waiting list. But unlike many programs, our girls stick with us for many years at a time.
Like from beginning to high school?
I've seen girls come through the program at age 6 and stay all the way till 18, which is, you know, not something you've probably seen other places.
And going back, have you had some, you've been around 17 years, as you mentioned, examples where without this program, someone would have gone astray, and because of this program, they're able to become a success? Give me some concrete examples.
You know, honestly, our girls could speak much more articulately than me about their experience.
Sure, but unfortunately they're not here, but we'd like to hear about that.
But I can tell you what I've seen is great transformation. I see shy young girls come in, and as they come through the program, they gain their voice, they become confident, they become, you know, really interested in their academics. And so, you know, and sometimes they encounter real tough times. You know, it might be a parent passes away or they're facing some difficulty, but they love the family. The program's a family. So they have a lot of sisters in the program. And I would have to say that I think that's what keeps a lot of our students engaged.
Do your girls compete at a high level, and do they aspire to be part of the Olympics teams, or what?
Well, right now, because of the limited ice time, our students are still competing at relatively beginner levels of the competitive arena. But our hope one day is to have a facility of our own, you know, an ice rink with an academic center that would be so unique, where they could really put the hours of practice it takes to develop true expertise in the field. But they have their favorites. They're watching the Olympics and rooting.
Who would support something like that? I mean, who are your target for something like that?
Our supporters are amazing. They believe in our mission for education, empowerment, you know, and opportunity. So if you believe that girls should have, or not, girls in lower income neighborhoods should have opportunities for health and fitness and educational support, then we're your program, because we really have results. More than 85% of our girls have a B average or higher in school, and last year 36% had straight A's. So it really encourages success.
Citibank has had a commercial on figure skating during the Olympics. What kind of impact has that had on your program?
Well, there's no program in the country or the world even that combines figure skating and education for girls from under-resourced communities. So Citibank approached us because Olympic gold medalist Evan Lysacek has been a supporter of our organization for many, many years. And Citibank wanted to do something different. They didn't want to just promote the Olympics. They wanted to promote healthy fitness and sports in all communities. So we were honored to not only participate and receive financial support, but also the commercial itself was one of our students was starring in it. So she's gotten recognized on the street now, and we've gotten terrific feedback because, you know, we're busy, hard at work, and not everyone knows that we exist. But I think
now they
do now. Yes.
Sharon Cohen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Still to come, New York's Chinese media and the war of words. Finally from us, New York is famous for its newspaper wars. Usually the battling brands are the English language tabloids or the Times and the Journal. Now, New York's Chinese media is mixing it up, with 4 large dailies vying for the heart and soul of one of the city's largest and fastest growing immigrant groups. Writers and editors from the major Chinese newspapers recently came together at a panel sponsored by the Center for Community and Ethnic Media to talk about competition and the growth of the Chinese media. The current debate about the media seems to focus more about the death of print and the rise of digital media. While there are no questions that print publications are struggling, the Chinese newspapers in New York are showing that print still matters, while they are making inroads in new media.
We compete with the World Journal, with Xingdao, with Ming Pao, equally and respectfully. And we learned a lot from World Journal and from Xingdao. So we respect each other.
While that may be the case, World Journal calls itself the most influential Chinese media in America. Everyone agrees that they are the gatekeepers to Chinese Americans and Chinese immigrants and to publishing service pieces. The dailies boast a circulation of 50,000 readers every day and are poised to grow as more Chinese immigrate to New York.
We don't have 80 to 100 pages every day, but that really doesn't make us less as a media. And we're actually more accurate. I think we are accurate and comprehensive in the content.
There are critics who contend that these publications are deeply influenced by officials from mainland China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, and these publications even receive money from their homeland governments. This is something that is vehemently denied.
A newspaper like World Journal can't get a cent from either sides of Taiwan Strait. I'm talking from the government. There's no way.
The growth of the Chinese newspapers mirrors that of the community. According to the New York City Department of Planning, the number of Chinese immigrants in New York City increased from 261,551 people in 2000 to 350,231 in 2011. In a few years, it is estimated that Chinese will surpass Dominicans as the largest foreign-born population in New York.
So that is why most of the foreign companies and advertisers, they want to advertising in our newspaper because they want to target our markets. Well, another reason is because our Chinese immigrants, and not only they are working here, but also they are here for investment, and they have strong consuming ability.
These Chinese newspapers are considered among the best in New York City ethnic media. They have beat reporters covering City Hall, the police department, and were the major winners at last year's IPPIS Awards.
The Chinese language newspaper is the bridge between the Chinese community and the public service system and private sectors. So there's one of the major duty for us is to help our readers, especially for the new immigrants, to access the public and private services.
Despite their growth in print, the Chinese publications are quite aware that the future is digital. All of these publications have a robust presence on Weibo, a Chinese social media service similar to Twitter. That's our show this week. Thanks for staying tuned. Till next time, be independent-minded.